Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before you are tantalized in your pleasure centers for tonight's broadcast of the Bald and Bonkers Show, we must inform you that sadly, due to the powers that be that constantly spy on you 24/7, 7 days a week, your time, we are unable to provide the usual plethora of music and visual stimuli to ease your short attention spans. My name is Zeldog from the planet, and we hope you enjoy this broadcast. Wait a minute.
Hey, what's this dude?
Billy Ray,
What?
what do you have there?
Thing?
Put that damn thing down, Billy Ray.
What's
Hey, Billy.
Hey, John, what's this?
I thought we were going to stop bringing dumbass rednecks up here. Crap, is this thing still on? Enjoy the show!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Bald and Bonkers show. Yes, it's a weird intro. That's what happens when your editor is doing this shit tired. And finally, we have Cristina Gomez back.
I liked it. I liked the intro.
It was good one time. I thought it's done really well, you know. How's things with you, Cristina? It's good to have you back on the show. It really is.
Thanks, guys, for inviting me once again. The first time we chatted, it was so much fun. So it's such a pleasure to be able to speak with the both of you again. Things have been good. They've been very hectic, very crazy, but as is life,
I know,
right? How about you guys?
It's craziness. Craziness isn't the word. Craziness isn't the word. But yeah. I've been watching your shows, and everybody that's watching this throughout the entire network, please go and subscribe to Cristina Gomez. All the links will be below, and give her a big thumbs up on her lives, because your lives are absolutely fantastic. I was watching a couple of other nights, so they got to do
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've gotten a little bit more comfortable when you're talking or podcasting for the first few months. It's very difficult to really feel your groove, to be able to also make your thoughts cohesive when you actually speak them. And then for the most part, talking to a camera, while you want to make it as interactive as possible, talking with your audience, in reality, you're talking to a screen. And I also struggle with dyslexia and verbal dyslexia. So that's been a really big challenge for me to feel confident when speaking, when reading my notes. But the most treacherous thing is reading other people's comments live. And I'm thinking, okay, just take a deep breath. Don't mess up. Dyslexia, do not kick in right now.
Yeah.
Because
that's so weird.
It can be difficult. Yeah.
I'm dyslexic too, and I think a lot of people in this field are dyslexic. I don't know if you've noticed.
It does seem to be a trend, I've noticed.
I think you have to be a part of the field.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder.
Oh yeah. I mean, when all your hair falls out, it's even better, you know.
Oh yeah.
Speak for yourself. I'm not even 30, and I look like I'm in my 40s. I look older than my own parents.
Well, look at me. Look at me. I'm only 41, and I look like I'm 60. But
well, when I don't wear makeup, people think I'm like 17. So
yeah, I will say this: you do look quite young. I will say this: you do look, and I've actually people that I've shared you out with have said, "That young lady, she's very young."
Yeah. Like she's still in high school. No, I'm in a university, ready to graduate really soon, which I'm pretty excited for. And then from there,
I was just going to ask, what are you doing at university? What's your ambition?
I am studying business and communication. Ooh. I mean, I've wanted to change my degree multiple times in my college career, such as getting a degree in psychology or even religious studies, but I ended up sticking with business and communication. However, as soon as I graduate, my goal, and I'm working towards that goal as we speak, is getting a motorhome and traveling the United States, hitting all the paranormal hotspots and UFO hotspots, and documenting my journey while going across the country. So
that would be awesome.
I am so excited. I'm like planning things out. I'm already mentally thinking about how I'm going to decorate the RV and things like this, and the equipment that I need to purchase, because it is going to be very much also a mobile studio as well. So decking it out with FLIR, very high-tech HD cameras, audio recording as well, and things of this nature. So it is very costly, but I am working towards that goal to give people the absolute best content that I can, because I've been spending about 2 years now doing a lot of research from home, doing extensive research in the topics of UFOs, the paranormal, and now even cryptids. But now I feel confident, I feel ready to start doing real boots on the ground investigations and bringing my book knowledge to the outside world.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really cool.
I think that'll be awesome. And a camper van going all across the United States, Roswell, and all these amazing places you can go to.
My first stop is going to be Utah, and then the next stop is going to be the Bridgewater Triangle to look for puckwudgies.
Oh,
nice.
Puckwudgies, my favorite word to use, and I try to use it every day in like basic conversation with people even at the grocery store. So, puckwudgies, huh? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm thinking, puckwudgies is the coolest name, even though they're like these little evil, ugly looking gremlin goblin things. The name is just so cute.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try the next time I'm in the store. I'm going to say, have you?
Oh dear Lord!
Please do.
We apologize to the United Kingdom.
Yes. I'm in Scotland anyway. I'm in United Kingdom, but I'm in Scotland, the land of the free.
Well, maybe Scotland will finally get their freedom just so they can get the UK. Can
maybe one day it'll be Braveheart. Everybody will be running the boots shouting we're free, But here's a question I'd like to ask you, Cristina. How did you? I know you've maybe already talked about this, but how did you actually get into this kind of field? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, I have always been interested in just everything weird and strange because of my father. He got me interested through the TV show The Twilight Zone. Fast forward, I went to university. I moved very far away from home. I was like, I do not want to be close to my strict Latin parents. I want to move as far as I can. And at this time, when I had first entered as a freshman, I had a lot of free time. And from there, I thought, I think I really want to get serious into looking at the UFO phenomenon. And when I would attempt to talk about it with my colleagues or walking down the hallway, and I'll be like, so what do you think about the UFO phenomenon? Like, what do you think about UFOs? And they're saying, dude, it's 8 a.m. I haven't had coffee. I haven't even had any types of weird substances yet. We cannot have this conversation. Wait until Friday night when we go out, then maybe we can talk about this. But until then, I'm gonna go to class and I'm gonna pretend we never had this conversation. So I was honestly disappointed in that answer that I would consistently get from people. It wasn't just a one-time occurrence. This was a pretty common theme. And so then I got onto the internet and I said, where can I find like somewhat like-minded people and how can I get started? Because I was a newbie. I'm still a newbie just several years later. There's so much to this field, and it seems that there's a convergence between the UFO and the paranormal phenomenon that you can't learn everything in a year, let alone a day. It takes years, if not decades, of research. So I started off doing UFO sighting analysis. I would find videos on YouTube, on MUFON, and things like this, and I would go ahead, place it in programs, try to stabilize it, add filters if it needed it to see if it had any type of exhaust, and place it back on YouTube and allow people to come up with their own conclusions on what this object might be. That then shifted into shifting the paradigm, where I interviewed UFO researchers and enthusiasts, which has now brought into also paranormal investigators, psychic mediums, the other types of researchers that do boots on the ground investigations, and even mathematicians that have looked at the possibility of extraterrestrial life using mathematics. So it has broadened extensively, and it's really opened my mind. And I think that all three of us are so lucky to be podcasters, to be able to be hosts and to speak to our guests and ask those burning questions that we have, instead of maybe just watching it and be like, can I just ask this one question that's on my mind, So we are so lucky to really have that one-on-one with people that are very knowledgeable in whatever they specialize in. And for myself, I really like bringing my audience onto this journey with me to like learn with me, because as I mentioned in almost every single show that I do, I'm practically going in blind. I don't know much, and I'm kind of happy that's the case, because then I don't bring in my bias and my opinion with me to do the research or to ask those questions. Instead, it's just it's like a blank canvas. And then from there, depending on how people answer my questions or how I do the research, I'm able to dive deeper into certain things that really I'm like, whoa, that's a thing? And then continue with that.
Can I ask you, have you ever experienced like maybe anything in the UFO field yourself? Have you witnessed anything or anything in the paranormal field?
Yeah, I have. Right before I started doing all of this, and I'm gonna quickly go over this because I'll be honest, I really don't like talking about it, but I did have a UFO sighting back in India when I was doing a tour with a few other people, and we came across this like elderly man on the street. He'd be classified as a sadhu or a guru, and we said, "Hey, look, we're looking for this temple. Do you know where it is?" And he said, "I'll take you there." And we're like, yeah, what could possibly go wrong with a stranger taking us to a destination that we know nothing about, never been here before? Sure. Yes, please guide us. And it was from there, we took a bus. We ended up walking a little bit longer. We came across these ruins of a Shivan temple, and we were enjoying ourselves, just looking around and then also looking at the sky until it turned into the evening. And this sadhu said, "Okay, everyone, open your eyes for those that are meditating, things like this. I'm going to go into a deep meditation and just keep your eyes on the skies." And I was like, okay. I was very young at the time. I didn't really care of things like this. And from there, as he was in this deep type of meditation, someone pointed out and said, "Do you see what's in the sky? Like, what is that?" So all of us look, and we see these 3 orbs pretty far away from us, but one of them comes very close. And the best way I could describe the way that it looked, because it wasn't fully organic, it wasn't fully nuts and bolts, it was kind of a medium between the two. And if you know the Carlos Diaz lights, the Carlos Diaz UFO sighting, that is the best kind of way I could describe it. It was kind of orangey yellow, and it just didn't look fully organic and not fully nuts and bolts. And then after just a few moments, it flew back with the other 2 orbs and it left. The sadhu opened his eyes. He came out of meditation and he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he had mentioned, "While these may look very odd to you now, they're actually very similar to us." And then from there he said, "But do not attach to this sighting or things like this. It's all, everything is as it should be. And whatever sighting that you have, you shouldn't make it a personality trait." And so when I started doing my UFO channel, I actually forgot about that sighting. While it was profound, I was never really able to fully process what I saw, especially because I didn't really have any background knowledge. I didn't calculate how big it must have been. I didn't look at my surroundings to give me an idea. I didn't take pictures. I didn't record. I didn't interview the witnesses soon after, right, to get a consensus on what everyone saw, which is rather unfortunate. I would do that today, but I didn't then when I was young. And so that was kind of my first and currently my only sighting that I've had. But like I said, I don't really like talking about it too much because it's so personal.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. But just think, when you've got your camper van, your RV, and you're driving across the United States, what strange creatures. What strange things you might see in the dark skies, you know. I'm going to hand you over to my co-host here, Dakota, now, because I've been hogging all night, you know.
Oh, of course, as you usually do. But I have noticed from watching your shows that you have started to gain a bit more of an open-minded, for lack of a better word, approach to certain topics. Because obviously, say like with the Sadhu, there's certain aspects of it where spirituality is like, why is that even involved? What is your opinion when it comes to stuff like that, if I'm making any sense whatsoever?
When I first jumped in the field and putting my face out there to the public, which was very difficult, to be honest with you, for myself, I really wanted to stick to the nuts and bolts, to the science, the data, to really get tangible information versus just anecdotal accounts. But as the years have progressed, it's become more and more difficult to not look at the spiritual aspects, to not look at the anecdotal accounts. You have to consider all of that information because you are weaving a tapestry. You need the science, you need the history, you need the spiritual aspect, you even need the paranormal aspect as well to create this tapestry to help us better understand what exactly is going on. And now I am fascinated by the paranormal as well. I mean, look at Skinwalker Ranch. You have a convergence between the UFO phenomenon, the paranormal. You're getting cryptids there too.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy location. Now, we do need to keep in mind that there are other locations across the globe that are similar to Skinwalker Ranch. There are these types of hotspots, such as the Bridgewater Triangle, where they have puckwudgies. Okay, and it's the same kind of thing. But it's Skinwalker Ranch that is getting all of this attention. A TV show, scientists. You're getting an extensive amount of research. You're getting a lot of money to be put into this ranch. But there's also places like Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona as well. So people think that Skinwalker Ranch is the only place where you're getting all of this crazy thing, all these crazy things in one location. That's not the case. This is across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, that's when I've watched the documentary on Discovery and stuff like that, and it's so interesting.
It is.
But do you think there's maybe a connection with the paranormal and maybe the UFOs? I mean, see the UFOs and the extraterrestrials. That, do you think they're maybe interested in the paranormal like we are? Do you think it's got an attachment to that?
This is a great question, and it's one that I ask practically every single one of my guests. I ask every single one because I want to understand this when it comes to the UFO and paranormal convergence, this type of phenomenon. So I've interviewed Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch. I've interviewed John Dover, who is a retired Navajo ranger that lives in Arizona. I've interviewed Thomas Winterton, the superintendent of Skinwalker Ranch, and I've asked them this specific question: is there a convergence, in your opinion, between UFOs and the paranormal phenomenon? And many of them, if not almost all of them, say yes, there is some type of thing going on. Or, and here's where my opinion comes in, which I'm always very hesitant to share, but I am going to share it for this topic. And what if they're the exact same thing with different labels, and that's what's confusing us? Okay, for example, we in the Bridgewater Triangle, they call goblins puckwudgies. In a different part of the world, they'll call them gnomes. And somewhere else, they might call them fairies. But they're all the exact, if not similar, creatures. But these names make it very confusing, and we just simply assume that they're totally different creatures. When that might not be the case. And that's just one example, because I love puckwudgies, even though I don't know if they're real, but the name is my favorite thing on the planet. But this is just one example that I think that we need to consider when we are doing this research. What if we just take off the labels? How similar are these things? I just recently did an interview with someone, and we were talking about alien abductions with the paranormal. There are some people that have had experiences where they'll enter a location, their mind goes blank, and then they wake up and they're somewhere totally different. And that was a paranormal experience, a paranormal encounter someone had, but it sounds very much like an alien abduction. Is it the exact same thing? What does alien really mean? What does ghost really mean? We all have different interpretations of what we think these entities are. But what if they're the exact same, or what if they're completely different? We don't know the answer to that. All we can do is assume and continue doing research, and continue speaking to as many people as we can.
It's like when they say about shadow people. You've heard the stories about shadow people.
Yeah.
I've got a theory that shadow people aren't spirits. A lot of people think they are spirits, right? But I think they're an interdimensional type of entity. And obviously there is a lot of UFO theories out there that some UFOs, some extraterrestrials are interdimensional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I can agree with that mentality, with that mindset. We have to be open-minded. And a lot of what gets discussed in the paranormal field is different dimensions. So what if advanced civilizations already figured out how to beat the limit of the speed of light, and that is to jump into hyperspace, another dimension, to make a short trip of a massive distance, and then they jump back into our dimension, and then they are at the location? That would make them interdimensional entities, right?
Yes.
So we have heard about shadow people, demons, ghosts, even Bigfoot have access or originate from these dimensions, right? So is that what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch as well?
Yeah. Skinwalker Ranch is... I've actually got a few questions about that, but I'll let my friend here go because I think he's got a question first.
No, I do want to say we had an interview with Dr. Jeff Meldrum from Idaho State University, popularly known as the Bigfoot Professor. When it comes to Bigfoot, I've had my own share of experiences. He brought up a very valid point. How much of it, and a lot of it could probably be paranormal, UFOs, so probably be applied to the same. How much of what we're thinking is something interdimensional, just humans not paying attention? Because he brought up a study where a group of hunters, they were set in a 10 square mile radius, saying, okay, go look for deer. Everybody had GPS trackers. They had a good sized herd of deer with trackers on them. All the hunters said, oh, we couldn't find any. It's like, oh, well, there's about 20 or 30 right there, according to the GPS. So honestly, just to kind of keep somewhat of an analysis to it, because when you start, in my experience, when you start going into the spiritual side, that unfortunately opens up a lot of doors that don't exactly have the best mentalities to them. What do you think? How much of what is going on, being that it does seem to be such a spike going on nowadays in this type of activity, it's just clearly we don't understand much about what's actually in the world?
That's a really hard question to answer. So there could be, I mean, a conventional explanation, but there are cases, pretty extreme cases, where it would seem that the other dimensional hypothesis seems to fit. So I mean, what I'm saying is that I feel comfortable being open-minded on all of these aspects. That's the best way I can answer your question. So I mean, like I said, I started out looking at like the hard nuts and bolts evidence, but it has, I mean, over time I have brought in my perspectives, but I'm still not putting my foot down and saying it is this, it is that, because I think that we do need to remain open-minded to attempt and do the best research that we can. So I'm on the fence, really.
Christina, what's your thoughts about Skinwalker Ranch? What do you think's actually going on there?
What do I think is going on at Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah.
It seems that, from my limited understanding, and something that truly fascinates me, are portals and wormholes. So there have been a decent amount of stories of people during all the previous eras, such as the Bigelow era, the Sherman era, and even now with the Fugal era, where there have been alleged accounts of portal type of encounters. And even in the latest season of Skinwalker Ranch, which I know in the UK they just now got the latest season. So I don't want to spoil it too much, because I don't know what episode has been released. But what I will say is that there was one episode where they believe, and this is just merely speculation, where they could have possibly captured a wormhole in the sky. That was obviously my favorite episode of all time on the episode of Skinwalker Ranch. But I would like to mention that so these openings, these portals, that they're like tunnels in the air, like, and on the other side, witnesses saw a different sky in the Sherman era. There was in a book, and then there was a similar type of story during the Bigelow era, which we know that Bigelow Aerospace and NIDS, when they owned Skinwalker Ranch, their data is it's under wraps. It's really hard to obtain. But that, looking at portals, that happened with scientists observing during the Bigelow era, to be specific. But as to what I think is going on, it is difficult to say. I would love to go and do my own research and my own investigations to get a better understanding. But the fact that you're getting all of this strangeness happening in one place, it makes me question what's inviting all of those things. Is something underground? Is it something to do with a type of like some type of they're just being attracted in some way? What's attracting them? Is it a portal? We don't know. So I feel like we are children observing side effects of phenomenon that is way ahead of us.
So when are you going? So when are you going to Skinwalker Ranch?
When I get the green light. Come on, let's go.
We can use Dakota as bait. Something will come out and get them, you know.
No, I always got to be the bait.
What I found quite interesting was the cattle mutilations too in Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, what would this is the thing, right? Extraterrestrials that come from far, far away to come to this planet, right? And then they want to like mutilate cattle. That's I just don't know why they would want to do that. But then it makes me think maybe they're not coming from a faraway planet. Maybe they're interdimensional, and from their dimension, it's totally different.
It's something that we need to consider, and I wonder if whatever is going on there, if it sees humans as pests or as a nuisance. We're like, oh, they're watching me do cattle mutilations. This is so bad for us, or something like this. But it's these types of questions, Chris, that we need to ask. Why are they doing this? What's the purpose behind it? And even if we were to be given an answer, would we understand it? Or are they just a type of a trickster intelligence? Or is this all because of the hitchhiker effect? We don't know, at least not yet. So, and it makes me question also, how many intelligences are involved? Is it just one? Is it multiple? Right. Well, we don't know that, but it's these questions that we have to ask to do a sufficient amount of research on.
I was watching something the other night, and actually this kind of ties into the Skinwalker Ranch. Different dimensions. Talk about hauntings, right? So there'll be an old house, and people will be doing an investigation, and they'll see things moving, right? But if you to go back in time to when that house was like occupied, the people that were just walking about would see some strange things. What happens if at Skinwalker Ranch, right, the things that you're seeing, there's maybe like a shift in time.
Like residual hauntings.
Yes, you're seeing something that happened maybe 1,000 years ago. Maybe when it's a slip in time, the people back then are like, what are these strange creatures doing? What are these strange humans doing? What are they doing with all that strange things? That's technology to us. I would love to go there. And I think you definitely need to go there, Christina. It needs to be your first place you go.
Well, as soon as I get the motorhome, I am going to Utah. That I've already mapped it out, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. And if given permission, yes, I would love to go to Skinwalker Ranch and even speak to the residents around the area to get an understanding of what they think is going on. But the point that you brought up about residual hauntings potentially happening at Skinwalker Ranch, I haven't considered that due to the fact that the stories that have been made public, a lot of these entities actually interact with the people on that ranch, right? Usually with residual hauntings, that's not, to my understanding, the case where they're acting out the event that happened for them, but they don't they're not touching and being like, "Hey, sir, Chris, how's it going? Oh, you wanna talk to me? Oh, that's totally fine. But let me just finish acting this out, and then we can have a chat." You know?
Yeah, I think. I mean, do you think they've maybe found the proof now, but they're not allowed to show it? Do you think?
I think that is possible, especially during the Bigelow era. There's a lot of people that had their fingers in that pie that have not come out publicly. Just recently, there have been one or two that have come out and actually showed their face on The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, the latest season, where beforehand it was still kind of touchy. They didn't really talk about it. So I think that when this conversation gets more mainstream, or people are becoming more understanding of it, then maybe we'll start getting more people that were involved in the previous eras coming to the public and talking about their experiences, because now they will not be ridiculed as someone that's crazy or a liar or a charlatan, because extensive research has been done and it's really hitting hard for the in the public eye.
I think now even the governments of the world are taking it more seriously. I mean, it used to be in TV and that they would take the total pass, make fun of somebody that's seen a UFO, and now they're actually taking it really seriously. Who are these who are these in control of these vehicles that jets, top of the technology jets, millions of dollars can't even catch? Who are they? And it's worrying in a side, yes, our technology. I know the extraterrestrials and stuff like that. Our technology is nothing in them. Nothing.
We're just
they're
children.
Millions of years. Yes. We're kids, and they're the grown-ups, and they're the ones that's in charge of the world. Dakota, would you like to go?
Well, kind of going on in the spectrum of alternate dimensions and residual hauntings. What are your thoughts on some of these beings potentially being time travelers recording historical events? So, there seems like anytime there's a major world event going on, something's in the sky. In fact, Chris, just more recently with Queen Elizabeth's funeral, pointed out there's some weird obstructions in the sky, like something tried to, for lack of a better word, manifest, but realized, oh, wait, there's a camera. I better go away.
When it comes to the question of time travel, it's one that I have been asked and I'm not too familiar with it. And it's one that I do want to ask other people that have done extensive research on the theories of time travel. Now, for myself, to my limited understanding, you would be practically creating a rip in space-time if you were to time travel, or for instance the grandfather paradox, right? Where if you go and you kill your father, you wouldn't exist, and how are you able to kill your grandfather? And like this is just this loop going on. Now, people have spoken about time travel and thinking that possibly extraterrestrials could, at least some of them, be some type of time traveler, or even us from the future. For instance, the Rendlesham Forest encounter, where you had Jim Peniston believe that it was us from the future, where he had encountered that craft. He got binary code downloaded into him, and he got these coordinates of different locations on planet Earth. And he was even told that it's people from, like, I don't know, a few hundred years in the future. I can't remember the exact date. So these are potential questions that, yes, we need to ask. And I will say I am not the person to ask those questions to, because I don't know. And I'm so confident in saying that.
Fair enough.
I see what you're talking about with time travel. I mean, you're talking about Rendlesham Forest, right? Why would you, this is what I don't get. Why, if you're right, I'm 200 years advanced, right? Why would I come back and give someone coordinates? Because you would change stuff, wouldn't you? You would actually be changing the timeline, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a very difficult conversation to have, because it's merely just not even theoretical, it's a hypothetical. And even that, you're really taking these huge leaps into attempting to understand. Now, I look at the stars at night, and what I see, what I see is like less than maybe 0.1% of what's out there. And those stars, those star systems, 90% of them are far older than our solar system. Our world has allegedly experienced 5 mass extinctions. And we are a species having a species have technologically evolved only in the last century or so. So what about a civilization that has had 1,000 years, on us, that understand physics that we don't have a clue about yet? Could they have mastered time travel? Surely they would have mastered interstellar travel. But what about a type 2 or a type 3 civilization? How many of them are out there? And would they be interested in our little blue world and be interested in the development of our species? Is our world unique with its biosystem, rich diversity of life, and even worthy
I think
of
we're
study?
unique as humans, yeah.
I mean, in our mindset, we are very egocentric. So, like, we're going to think that we are the bomb.com. But for these other species that are, and these others, other civilizations that could possibly be so higher advanced than us, would they think the same? So look, I think we are, like, just like you, Chris. I think we are the coolest. I think we would we will absolutely be curious once we get out there. We would want to quietly observe other civilizations, especially as they go through that tough evolutionary stages. But just because I might think that, are they thinking the same thing?
See, what worries me is this, right? If I'm right, say I'm 10,000 years advanced extraterrestrial, right, and I come to this world, I would look at the humans and I would think to myself, eventually they are going to start moving off this world. And look, us humans, we like blowing stuff up. We like killing, right? We like conquering and killing. We're violent, very violent. You just see what's happened throughout history, World War II, and what's happening right now. Can you imagine that when we start, maybe no for another 100 years yet, when we start getting out there, maybe the extraterrestrials out there sitting back thinking, "Oh my God, they're going to be here soon." Maybe in their lifetime, maybe 1,000 years, but that's no much considering how old your universe is.
I guess I would say that we are the human versions of the Klingons, right? We're very xenophobic as a species. So how we would react if we, because look, we are a spacefaring species. We will go out into space. We will explore. And yes, human race will conquer as we have done for centuries on our planet. But how we would actually react with another civilization, it really just depends on when we actually get there and we experience that. But from my limited understanding, I see us as the Klingons.
I do. I agree with you there. We are the Klingons. I mean, I play as a Elite Dangerous, and I play it on the Xbox, and it's just exactly the same, because it's like you're going into these different galaxies and you're taking over these worlds and you're mining them, and that's what's going to happen. That is what's going to happen. We're going to look for resources. We need resources, and eventually we'll come to this planet that's rich in resources, but there'll be someone on it, and something will happen. It will happen eventually. Dakota, would you?
Well, I would like to mention that I think that we will evolve past that sense of xenophobia and the sense of conquering. I also think of like the Vulcans in Star Trek. They're the opposite of the Romulans, but they both come from the same source. So will we evolve species wide?
I think we will, but it'll take time. I think it'll take time. I think it'll take another war. I think it'll take a big war, kill quite a few people off, and then I think it'll maybe calm down, and maybe humans will maybe try and stop fighting with each other, and like Star Trek, it'll be like that. They'll have to do something like that because we can't keep fighting with each other, because we're going to wipe ourselves out. Because as you say, how many civilizations that's made it to this point in Earth where we are right now, they've wiped themselves out and then started again.
Luckily, with each generation, each new generation, we get the chance to evolve. To old biases, they pass away. Old arguments get forgotten. So I think that in some regards, our future does seem really bright. And as the saying goes, our children are our future.
Yes.
And that saying will never change for the centuries, for the millennia to come.
Yeah, I honestly think it'll be a couple of 100 years before we've maybe calmed down enough, before we've maybe stopped killing the Earth, because we're killing the Earth. Let's face it, we're killing the Earth with what we're doing. What's your thoughts on this, Dakota?
I just hope we don't evolve into something like out of the film Idiocracy, the rate some things are going right now.
I wish that movie was more popular. It's so funny.
It's a good one,
but also movie. Like low-key accurate.
Right. I don't know what it is. It seems like a lot of younger groups, especially since the pandemic, are essentially getting screwed over by society that, in a way, seems like it doesn't care, but also doesn't know what to do. Therefore, it puts on the frame of it doesn't care. And it's just, honestly, I believe it sets up a dangerous precedent. And who knows, maybe the ET program is like some sort of extraterrestrial Peace Corps and like saying, we better help these people out before they kill themselves.
Yeah. And I can understand that mindset. I think that if we had a positive and benign contact with another more advanced species, it would be very humbling, right? I mean, it would literally be putting us in our place by sheer force of perspective.
Yeah, I think if aliens, extraterrestrials, if they come down, I think it would shock a few. I mean, what it would do to religion for a start, Cristina, that religion would kind of fall out the window slightly. Yes, you still believe in a creator and stuff like that, in the universe and stuff. I think they slowly want us to kind of open up to them before they come. That's what I really do think.
Kind of like in the movie Childhood's End. Great movie.
Yes, they want us to like slowly become aware and teach our children that yes, there is other life out there, and eventually, when they do decide to come, be 100 years from now or 10 years from now, there'll be enough people on the earth to say hello like that, and we won't start shooting at them. We won't start shooting them because let's face it, we probably would. We would probably start shooting, but it's. And we know for a fact that they've tried it. What was it? 2 American F-15s actually tried to shoot at a UFO. What was it? 2 years ago, and nothing happened. It just flew away. But see, this is the problem. They could so easily cure this Earth. They could so easily, with their technology, they could cure cancers. They could clean up the environment. But I do think there's things playing against us on this plane. Our own world leaders and there's own. It's like greed. It's. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. Is like people. What does a billionaire fear most? Waking up one morning and he's not a billionaire anymore. Right? You think about it. If you're making large amounts of money making weapons, right? Extraterrestrials come along, the land, and they end all wars. You're not going to make any more money, are you?
No.
Yeah, and that's money has destroyed this Earth. And let's face it, there's trillionaires out there that could do so much with their money. They could cure poverty overnight, but they don't want to. They would rather buy a super yacht at $100 million. You know, Dakota would like to say anything here.
No, I would just say you kind of go with the analogy we've been sticking with for most of this episode. Yeah. Perhaps the reason they don't necessarily step in fully, maybe they help take off the edge so we don't put ourselves into an early extinction like some contactees have claimed, is that if a parent constantly goes to correct and go to the rescue of their child, the child is never going to learn. that it's just how evolution has worked all this time. And it's one of those things that, like Christina said, one-on-one contact with these types of things can be humbling, and some cases a little bit disturbing, depending on some of the implications. But that's a reason why I'm being contemplated using some potentially illegal substances, just so I feel like I'm sane.
Well, there are bad people and there are good people, and when bad people get control, good people suffer, and that's how it's been since before the Roman Empire. So greed and ego has evolved from the self-preservation instinct, and it's unfortunate how far it has come since then. And when we're looking at an alien invasion or alien contact of some kind, is that what people classify as disclosure, as transparency? Every single person has a different understanding of what disclosure means. And there's this whole disclosure movement of getting the government to release more documents about extraterrestrials or their research into them. But for the most part, a lot of people are like, I already think that extraterrestrials are real. I just really want the government to tell me the same thing, that I'm right. And then it makes me question, well then, what does disclosure mean? And I think disclosure is an ongoing thing, and it's coming from the people, not from anybody else.
I mean, disclosure.
And I ultimately think that, look, I ultimately think that disclosure will come from the people.
Yes.
Maybe even like one day a mass sighting, right?
Yes,
It would be inarguable.
I don't think the government will ever really release everything, because let's face it, if they have got alien craft that have crashed to Earth, why would you disclose that? Because you can back engineer that and make lovely fancy weapons with it. Think about it. I mean, you think about how we've jumped in our technology since the 1940s. How we've jumped. Yeah, and maybe space travel will not really jump that far, but then again, you've got the secret space program. You could get into this kind of stuff, and I think we're not going to really get anything for the government. We might get a wee bit here and there, and I think you're right. It's going to be people it's going to make it for us. It's going to be these people that research, that go out. Eventually, they'll catch something, and it will be a mass sighting, like you say. I think you're right, Christina. I really do.
Imagine the Phoenix Lights happening today. Imagine all of the photos and videos that would flood the internet. But then maybe disclosure will come after the James Webb Space Telescope. Maybe we will observe technosignatures in the atmosphere of an exoplanet. That's just as big.
I've been hearing a lot of talk about that lately, about the James Webb, and they say, oh yeah, we could pick up. I mean, imagine we uncovered that there was a planet thousands of light years away, and it had an atmosphere like ours, and it had signatures that we've got, but we still couldn't get there. That's the problem. And even if we to send a message to them, it would take hundreds of years to get there, thousands of years to get there. But maybe that would help awaken, maybe stop wars and stop fighting with each other, and maybe work together, technologically wise, to maybe travel there one day. You know,
it would put us in our place to realize that we are all one species, that there's no need to be warring amongst ourselves when we get that kind of information. And it is so incredible that we're getting science involved publicly to state that they are looking for technosignatures, which really means they're looking for extraterrestrial life. They're looking for the byproducts of exhaust, things of this nature, light pollution, things like this. So it is amazing how far we've come. People will think, oh, we're not moving fast enough. The fact that we're even having this conversation and we're not classified as crazy or being brushed at the side, that people don't want to hear this, is a big thing. And the fact that the that governments across the world, not just the United States government, but we are aware that there are multiple countries that have had their own UAP offices for quite some time, if not longer than the United States. And then now we're having congressional hearings for the UAP phenomenon as well. So we are making strides. Maybe not as fast, but we're making them. And the more advanced our technology becomes, the wider the spectrum of possibilities open up. So for what is out there, not only looking at other worlds, but looking at exotic physics, okay?
Yes.
Quantum physics, the science of wormholes, then looking at the possibilities of life under the ice of Europa and Ganymede, and the imagination of kids.
I definitely think there's something there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think there is something there, yeah.
Yeah, and the imagination of kids today getting stimulated by science fiction shows, which take leaps of the imagination. Kids today are like so familiar with these topics. Aliens? Well, kids say, why not? On campus, I've asked people, and they're like, yeah, dude, why not? The universe must be full of life because science has told us so. Because it's practically impossible with how big the universe is that we're the only things that are alive.
Yeah.
No, there's no way.
Yeah. Of course, we're not the only things that's alive. There's millions of different races in this galaxy, probably. You know, I mean, I think it's frightening that when we do realize what's actually out there, Christina, I think it's going to be a shock. I think we're going to be, oh my God, look at all the races that's round about us. Look how, get what I mean? And all we need is one chance. All we need is one chance of communicating with one of them. Maybe one of them's technology advanced. They could come here and show us how to build ships. And then that's that. It starts with the human race.
I would love to be alive to see that.
I want
it to happen today.
Yeah, I think it will happen. I think it will happen in the next 10 years. Do you know that? I think something will happen in the next 10 years. I think Dakota's
I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to hold you to it 10 years from now.
I tell you, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction
10 years
right
probably the safe bet.
I'm not going to say 10 years. I'm going to say 2026. Something happens.
Once I write it on this Post-it note, there's no going back.
No, I'm not going back. 2026. Alien life will be discovered. Now, I'm not saying it's on Earth, and I'm not saying it's in space. I'm just saying it'll be discovered.
It's on here. It's going to go on the fridge.
I'm telling you, it's going to be discovered 2026.
I will say, just be careful, Christina. There's been a couple of things that Chris has ended up predicting awfully accurate, and I'm just like, all right, what do you?
I'm telling you, I bet you, it's probably more than likely it's on this planet. They find something.
Interesting.
Right.
Well, I look forward to that information and to have the data in hand to agree with that, because it's unfortunate that a lot of the stories that we have received have been merely anecdotal. People having witnessed, people having their own sightings, people telling stories, but then not having anything tangible other than their words, which I don't think should be neglected altogether, but I don't think it should be also our only source of information when it comes to the UFO phenomenon specifically.
Well, I think something. I'm not 100% sure something will happen in 2026, and I'm not getting into it. I can't tell you how I know.
I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm not gonna say anything pessimistic.
I'll shock you because it's something. I'm looking at. I'll tell you when the other time.
I'm hoping, because we are getting close to the end of the hour. Chris is trying to help me set something up, but
yes,
we do actually have. Well, like I mentioned before, we are trying to get and someone actually in the project is in the chat right now. And so, Casper, just give me a sec. We're going into it. Because Bald and Bonkers, we came to the realization that on the 16th apparently is our first year anniversary since we started doing this show. So we're trying to do up something special for the month of October. You know, first anniversary. You got to. as you know, Christina, we are trying to get a documentary off the ground, and we actually do have a new pitch trailer that ended up a bit longer than I was expecting. That if you're interested, we can play now.
I would love to see it. And first off, congratulations on the 1-year anniversary, guys. Yay! That is awesome. It's hard work. What you guys do is hard work. So the fact that you pushed through for a year is deserves an applause.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to go this far.
I know. Without further ado, shall we play that trailer?
Let's see it.
This is gonna be good.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Shots fired 147 Maple Street. Requesting backup.
All units, stand by.
In the early year of 2001, a young boy named Dakota Franson disappeared from his home in Jerome, Idaho, only to be discovered 30 miles away the following morning at the home of the boy's grandparents.
Dakota? Did your mom drop you off?
When asked about how he got there, the boy simply replied that he thought his friends from the sky dropped him off, but he didn't know how he actually got into the house, suggesting he somehow walked through the wall as if by teleporting. The grandparents naturally assumed that the boy must have been talking about a dream, only for suspicions to grow as they realized that no doors or windows were unlocked.
Dakota's gone! He's here at the house. He says someone brought him here.
Fears grew when the boy's mother called the grandparents hysterical, thinking that her only child was kidnapped by an abusive father. Despite the constant questioning, the boy stuck with the story about his friends from the sky and suddenly took up an interest in outer space, saying he was going to find a way back up there.
My wife in heaven visits me a lot. She even takes me to outer space sometimes.
You're right. You are such a weirdo. Shut up, you freak.
You're just like your father.
Why don't you just quit, Dakota? We all know you hate it.
You suck anyway.
You're not a man if you have to play football. You're just a big girl.
As the child grew, strange events only became more prevalent, some incidents escalating to near fatal encounters.
I even bother. My family hates me. No one even cares.
His lack of understanding the fundamentals of what was happening to him would make him question his every moment. The tensions of high strangeness and dark family histories would weigh heavy on the boy, prompting contemplation to find a way out.
This is hard. What is happening?
Little did he realize that someone very special was watching.
Dakota, there is someone here to see you.
Daddy, please don't do it.
Time went on, and as the boy became a teenager, he discovered his unnatural talents towards the paranormal and started to hone his abilities, eventually donning the mantle of specialist of the strange.
I can't ever stop thinking about that little girl. Seeing her in pain because of what I did. It just... Was that my daughter?
She is. She is out there waiting for you. Her mother is too. You have a big role to play. You came to this world to help people. It's why you are the way you are. It's why the Archangel Michael helped you see.
You do realize how crazy that sounds, right?
Dakota, no matter what happens,
Don't ever stop being the incredible man you are.
Dakota, she loved you. Her and her baby, they loved you and wouldn't want you to stop.
Theories would spring up about the source of the high-strength method of Roy's life, from pacts with demons to time travel, hybridization within otherworldly species, secret space programs, parallel universes, reincarnation, and more.
She looks good.
Dakota, I think I just saw Olivia.
Now, Mike!
Get away from her now.
Upcoming short film young ones with seemingly alien origins started to appear to others on an international scale.
Someone else was the authority. You missed something.
What perhaps scared the eyewitnesses more was the fact that these young ones were spitting images of Dakota Franson, the man they claimed was their father.
Daddy, come meet my new baby brother.
Mom, this is
I miss you so much, my love. We're coming.
I don't think Dakota is with us right now.
It only was until it was coming.
There's 3 here.
There you go. What do you think?
It was very fun. You got a lot of really cool concepts going on in this trailer. So I look forward to seeing how it pans out. How long did it take you to make that? I mean, like a lot of work was done.
Altogether, it took me about 24 hours.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all.
Makes you wonder how long the documentary will take. Probably 6 months or something.
Yeah, trust me, I'm wondering to see how that story ends, because the one thing we're having issues, and it's happened here on the show a few times, that the story is still evolving.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, I got a response from space, and it said, "Hi, Daddy, we miss you."
Yeah, there's a lot happening, and it's not just Dakota. There's me, Tay, and then there's others in the chat. There's actually a few in the chat there that's happened to too. It's happened to a lot of people. PWI Spiritual Investigators. It's happened to Moonblade. It's in the chat, and it's happened to a lot of people. And it's all the same kind of stuff. It's weird. You couldn't make that stuff up. It's very interesting. And that's how I can know about the 2026, but I'll tell you after the show.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing it when it's finished.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be interesting, because, like you said, I've tried to stick with the scientific side of it, especially with what's been happening. I went to tell a friend of mine that he knows about the situation. I was like, we're starting to look towards aliens. He's like, I don't know that's how that's possible, dude. It's like, dude, I have photos and videos of craft flying above my house. And he just looks at me like, what?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think the documentary is going to explore things into more detail, and I think it's going to open the door for things. I think there's people in the chat that's watching this right now that's got stuff to do with it. I know that's I can't talk about, but there's people watching this right now. It's very interesting.
Like it said, the ones claiming to be my kids, they visited other people. I was able to get enough information on them to use AI to recreate their pictures, which I put in the trailer. And nearly everyone I showed it to, just to get validation, if had some of them not been wearing glasses, their eyes would have popped out of their sockets.
Yeah.
From shock.
There's people that never even seen these photos, and they showed them and they're like, my God, that's That's who came to me that night. That's we've seen people that have been contacted from extraterrestrials, people that never met before. It's seen these photos, and it's how everything's connected. And nearly, I would say 90% of the people in that chat are all connected to this. And it's taken us, I must admit, it has taken us down the rabbit hole. And I wouldn't be surprised if you started experiencing something, Cristina, because it's very weird, you know. So I would like to say to everybody for tonight, thank you everybody for coming. We're going to be recording a David Icke interview tomorrow, which will be aired. When will it be aired? The David Icke interview?
Put that out on the 15th, give it time to, so that way we can just focus on the questions, and we'll just add intros in that later.
Yeah. So look forward to that, guys. And please, guys, could you go to Cristina Gomez's, all the links below, go to TikTok, go to YouTube, go to absolutely everywhere. Cristina, where can everybody find you? Might as well give you a plug,
Oh, first, thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a blast to speak with the both of you. And my Beacons link is right here in the live chat. Thank you so much for sharing that. There you can find literally all of my social media links, but I'm most active where I place all of my updates and news on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies, or you can check out my website at strangeparadigms.com, where you can catch all of my social media and all of my videos and podcasts in video and podcast format, and guest appearances too. So this will be on my website.
Yeah. So do you have any shows planned this week? Do you have any shows this week, Cristina?
I do. So for Thursday, Mysteries with a History, I'm having psychic medium John Russell co-host with me, and it'll be the mysteries of the paranormal. And then it's going to be at 2:30 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. And then on Friday, every single Friday, I do the show Strange Paradigms, where I look at all of the strange news and mysterious headlines from around the world. And then tomorrow is Shifting the Paradigm, which airs on KUNX Talk Radio, where I'll be interviewing Elliot Van Dussen, who is a retired Canadian police officer and now a paranormal investigator.
Oh, that'll be good. I'm looking forward to them. I'm going to be sitting watching them. I don't have to stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be watching it.
It's a really awesome interview. He goes into depth on some really spectacular stories that not only he's encountered, but that he's collected during his police career. That'll
be fascinating, because I've always wanted to talk to somebody in the police force that's experienced paranormal stuff. That's got to be absolutely fantastic. Well, Cristina, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody in the chat, we will see you in our next live, and we'll catch you all later. Catch you later, dudes. Bye, guys.